So in this movement, we're looking at a forearm wall slide. Now this movement is great to connect to the musculature that's responsible for upward rotation of the scapula, a movement that really needs to occur for any overhead positions, any overhead work, okay? So what we find to a certain degree is people make very little connection to what would be sort of like the muscles underneath the armpit, like your serratus anterior, that really sort of lifts that last portion, that upward rotation, as I said, this kind of coming forward of the scapula when we're doing any sort of overhead work. So what we'll find to a certain degree is that people that lack that ability really find that sort of like pinching and sort of closing sensation here when they go for their shoulder press. And you can kind of see to a degree this sort of shrugged shoulder position, and it doesn't really look correct. What you'll find is when we have good connection to the musculature that upwardly rotates, you'll see that sort of separation of the scapula, that sort of uplift out to the side, and especially near what would be sort of like the base of the scapula, that sort of turning upward, more optimal positioning for the shoulders, much more stacked, less sort of pinching as well at what would be like the glenohumeral joint too, okay? So this movement in particular, there's a few kind of key points that we want to go through and we want to make sure we nail to get this right, okay? So what you'll do is you'll place your forearms on the wall initially. I usually split my stance where I kind of go like 1 foot forward against the wall as well. What I'm trying to do here as well then is I'm actually trying to think of pushing my torso away from the wall, okay? So by keeping, you can see from here, my elbow stays on the wall, but I actually sort of like push my torso away. And that's gonna get a little bit of separation from my scapula towards my spine as well. And I really sort of press back into that space behind me, okay? It also helps to a certain degree to think of your rib cage staying down and your spine staying long. So by the rib cage staying down, we don't mean down and sort of shorten the spine. We mean down with the rib cage, but elongated with the spine. So try to think of the kind of counter element of a piece of rope pulling the crown of your head towards the ceiling, but also your ribs staying down and not flaring up and putting you into excessive extension of the spine. Because what we find is one of the limiting things with upward rotation is the positioning of the ribs and the positioning of the spine. So if you're in some ways too extended, you might find it very difficult to really upwardly rotate or connect to the musculature here. And in the same sense, if you're too flexed, you're probably going to find it very difficult as well. So we want to find that happy medium, sort of the natural rounding, the ribs staying down, but the spine also staying nice and long, okay? So as I said, then you're making sure you're not sort of too close, you're pushing back, you press those elbows into the wall. Now that you've got that good position, you can also focus a little bit on the sort of position with the pelvis too. So squeezing your bum, imagining that you're actually trying to sort of rotate your belt buckle up towards your face, and that's going to help you connect to the front of the abs and to your core as well, okay? Now that we've got those few things nailed, from here we can actually work on the movement. So we press into the wall with a little bit of pressure so that I'm sort of dragging up the wall, but not so much that I'm not going to be able to move. I just want a little bit of friction, but not too excessive, okay? From here we press out into a slight Y shape. We keep that contact with the elbows and we try to think of pressing our armpits forward towards the wall, and you're really going to feel everything underneath the armpit light up, okay? Go as far as you can. Pause, really make sure near that end range position that you're not losing the spine position, you're not going into extension, and you're not losing anything with the torso, okay? So you'll drive up, squeeze and hold, connect to that musculature underneath the armpit, and then drive down. Take it nice and slow again, drive up, hold for half a second, really connect to everything, really try to think of that scapula wrapping around the ribs, hold, slowly down. And that's your rep pretty much. So I will have prescribed a certain amount of reps. Make sure you're doing them for the amount that I've given. If you have any questions on that movement, I know there's a lot of things to do with the setup and everything like that in terms of nailing it. So be sure to leave either a question below or contact me directly. If you like this video, be sure to like it. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to the page as well. All right. But for the moment, I'll see you soon.